Welcome to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and the X Zone is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Our website, www.xzonetv.com, and on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And of course, you can listen to the X Zone 724 365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Tonight, here in the X Zone, a gentleman I've had the pleasure of knowing for many years now. In fact, he was one of the very first guests on the X Zone when we started way back when. His name is Michael Horn. Michael's story is very compelling. Michael has, well, you know what? I'm going to let Michael tell you his story and how he became to be part of this very, very fascinating world of ufology. Joining me now from Flagstaff, Arizona via Skype is Michael Horn. And Michael, welcome back to the X Zone.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me back on and for being on your TV show for the first time as well.
It's our pleasure, Michael. Michael, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'll give it to you in terms of the Meyer case. I mean, I have a background that is completely many other things. But in 1979, I found the first photo book of the Meyer case in a bookstore in Los Angeles. And I saw that, I looked, and it was authentic. In my opinion, I've never changed my mind in the past almost 36 years. But I've had a lot more to go on in terms of evidence, examination, research, investigation, 14 trips to Switzerland, meeting with Meyer every time, filming him, interviewing him, 6, 7 films that I've done totally since 1987 on this. So my experience is that I have gone in, and I've also troubled myself to have met with the original investigators of the late Wendell Stevens, Britt and Lee Elders. I've shared my stage with the world-class physicist David Froning, who came forward to speak up and say this is authentic. You know, I'm working with scientists who regard this as very authentic. We have a NASA aerospace engineer just come forward, a man who just retired from orbital space systems down in the Tucson area. Both those guys, by the way, are willing to share my stage and say, hey, this is the real deal. And the reason, I mean, I'm jumping fast forward through how did I get involved with this, because what's involved now is extremely important. It pertains, as it always has, to our very threatened future survival. So any and everything that I do now on the Meyer case is basically to try to bring awareness of it to people who can then determine the truth for themselves.
Tell me Billy Meyer's story and why you have stayed on this story and worked so hard at proving to people, and there's many skeptics out there, Michael. You're no stranger to skepticism and how devastating the internet and the skepticism and the lack of mentality of certain skeptics are these days. Billy Meyer, what is his story, and why do you, Michael Horn, believe in his story so much?
Well, I'll jump only to say, you know, there's things, I don't claim to believe anything. I know certain things, and some things I don't know, including in the Meyer case, of course. Let's put it this way. Meyer himself claims that as a 5-year-old boy in 1942, he was contacted for the first time by an extraterrestrial man named Svath, a Plejaren, a.k.a. Pleiadians. There are no Pleiadians, but that's another story. And that this began his lifelong contacts with the Plejaren people and other races, where he was mentored, tutored, taught by these people and taught them as well. It is claimed in this case, since a lot of people will find the information, that Meyer is the current personality of an extremely ancient spirit, or as they call it, spirit form, meaning that his spirit, his essential being, not his personality, is enormously ancient and has played the role of prophet in our world 6 times before as previous personalities, whose names we know for the most part. We can leave that for the moment, but you wanted to know a little about him. Meyer's contacts were for 11 years long with Svath, then they were picked up when he was about 16 with a woman named Asket, who it said comes from what's called the Dahl universe, an adjoining universe to ours. Then years later, in 1975, he began the first official contacts with the Pleiar and with a woman called Semyaze for the purpose of disseminating vast amounts of information to our world in an albeit somewhat oblique way, certainly not landing on the White House lawn or contacting our premiers and prime ministers, although they did authorize a contact to Jimmy Carter in 1979,
wow.
which our president, he turned it down.
Why?
Actually, not unexpectedly. The demands that were made in there,
right.
Some were reasonable, some were such as they could not try to molest the ships, or their representative, who would be Meyer, who would be acting as an intermediary. However, the touchy part was that they said, in a matter-of-fact way, and you have to let the people of your country know, and it would flow out to the world, that all of your religions are based on fantasies.
All right, Michael. We've got to take a break here. When we come back, more with Michael Horn. He is the American representative for Billy Meyer. The website is www.theyfly.com. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to
my family, my farm, and my books.
But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. The question I'm asking you, the members of the X-Zone Nation around the world, do you believe in UFOs? Are people from other planets, other galaxies, other dimensions actually coming here to this planet in the year 2015 and making contact? My guest this hour is Michael Horn. He is the American media representative for Billy Meyer. Michael's website is www.theyfly.com. And Michael doesn't believe everything that he hears. He doesn't believe speculation. But for the past 36 years, he has been working with Billy Meyer to bring forth this truth that he and thousands, if not millions of people around the world believe that we are, in fact, being visited by others from other galaxies, other dimensions, and other realms. Joining me again from Flagstaff, Arizona is Michael Horn. And Michael, before we went to the break, we were discussing the fact that Billy Meyer is a modern-day prophet, that he has, in fact, been given the spirit of a prophet that has been on this planet 5 other times.
6 other times.
6 other times, so he is the 7th.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, now, what was it or what is it that you, Michael Horn, saw to make you want to work on this project for 36 years?
Sure. Thanks, Rob. As I said before, when I saw the first photo book, I instinctively knew it was authentic. Mm-hmm. The photos were uniquely clear. The information in the book, although there wasn't a ton of information in the first photo book, the photos, the examination, some of the technical information, I said, this is the real deal. Right. That's what started me. I haven't changed that conclusion, but I have so much more now to base it on. Research into the material, the many, many more pages of translated information, the volumes here of prophetically accurate information which are so pertinent to our world. This is, look, the eye candy, the UFOs, that's number one. That got our attention. As I said, there's 3 new independent photo analyses. These are real. They're singularly, uniquely real as extraterrestrial craft. What I like to make clear when I speak about this information is that according to the material in the Meyer case, mm-hmm. the majority of what we see in the sky, the lights that we chase, are not extraterrestrial in origin. We don't have aliens walking around in the world. They're not working beneath the desert in Area 51 for the U.S. government. This is massive disinformation to keep people off of the one authentic case that has been now verifiably authenticated through the prophetic information, step 2, that is showing that if we do not change our course as a humanity, we get the long foretold, mm-hmm. very specific self-destruction that is right now unfolding everywhere. Ukraine, Russia, the Islamic radical terrorism, all foretold specifically, verifiably, copyrighted information in the Meyer case. That's the smoking gun that keeps this out of the UFO community, off of mainstream media and TV, keeps me out of most UFO conferences and presentations. So I'm willing to take any questions and challenges about it, because there's nothing to believe here. It's either true or it isn't, and you guys have to figure it out.
Let me ask you something. Why was Billy Meyer chosen? A farmer in Switzerland. Why was he chosen?
Sure. This comes to the kind of step 3 about all this. Step 1 is the eye candy. Step 2 is the prophetic information. Step 3, the mm-hmm. core of the case, the non-religious, belief-free spiritual teaching. Again, nothing to believe, but we have to think it through ourselves. According to this information, reincarnation is a fact of life. It's not a belief. It's not a maybe. It's a fact of life. However, we, the personalities that we know ourselves to be now, mm-hmm. we never come back as the same people. Fortunately, I probably won't be a little bald-headed guy in the next turnaround, But what we do is we come back as new people with no recall and memory, for the most part, until we're far more evolved of the previous personalities. It's said in this case, according to this information, which I cannot prove because I'm still a student and we can't prove it, Meyer's previous incarnations as a prophet on this planet included Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Emmanuel, we'll come back to him, and Muhammad. All 6 authentic prophets. Emmanuel, most people have never heard of. That was the real name of the man whose name was changed to Jesus Christ, a human being who and for whom there is not one piece of verifiable historical information, despite the fact that over 60 historians existed in his area at the time that Emmanuel was dwelling there and doing all those things attributed to Jesus. Now leave that for the second. Muhammad, all this terrible stuff. Yeah. Muhammad was a true prophet whose teachings, like all of the previous to him 5 prophets, was falsified and corrupted, turned into cults and religions and sects, as was explained to Meyer.
All right, Michael, I don't want to cut you off, but I've got to take my break here. Please stand by. Oh. Michael Horn is our guest, theyfly.com. This hour here in the X Zone, the Billy Meyer case. Don't go away.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wieka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wieka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. Michael Horn is my special guest this segment. We're talking about the Billy Meier case. This is a case of a gentleman in Switzerland who has been the subject of skepticism when it comes to the UFO world for tens of years. Michael Horn is the American representative for Billy Meier. His website is www.theyfly.com. And Michael, welcome back. Always great talking to you, my friend. Why all the controversy when it comes to Billy Meier? You and I have talked about his authentication before. We've talked about the prophecies that he has done that came true. What part does organized religion play in this entire discreditation scheme that seems to be going on against Billy?
Well, it's pretty huge, and there's actually a somewhat comical development in terms of it. As many people who know this material may know, as they know at the Vatican, the fall of the Catholic Church has long been foretold in many areas, but quite specifically in the Meier material, called the Enoch prophecies as well. Recently, Pope Francis, who seems to be, on all accounts, more reasonable and progressive than, if we want to use those terms in terms of religion at all, has endorsed effectively the curbing of births, a greater respect for the environment, and things like this. A couple of years back, we were told that at the Vatican they are studying Meier's material because they know who he is, and I mean that in every sense.
Right.
They understand the same spirit that was Emmanuel is now a pot-bellied, gray-bearded, late middle-aged, single,
So just let me stop you here for a second. So can we say that Billy Meier is the second coming of Christ?
No, because there was no Christ. This is the myth of religion. Now, I know that's going to be controversial for people. Emmanuel was never known as Jesus Christ.
Right.
He was crucified, did not die on the cross. All of this, folks, is in the Meier material, too. You can basically find all this stuff out for free. Okay, Emmanuel survived the crucifixion along with his mother Mary and a number of other disciples, traveled through various countries, Afghanistan and all, thrown out of many because he was preaching the truth at the time, which got changed into religion later. And he ended up in India, where his mother Mary died. He died at the age of about 110. There are tombs for both of them in the Srinagar, India area. Oh my goodness, we never heard about this. So no, he's not the second. He's the seventh and final prophet in that lineage, in the same way that Muhammad was not the second coming either.
Right.
So the whole religious part of this, it's very incendiary for many people. Sorry, folks. Determine the truth for yourself. But one thing you can do by going in and reading this information for free on the prophecies, you can verifiably now know that Billy Meier foretold AIDS, the two U.S.-Iraq civil wars that would, the last one led by a president, the son of a, I mean, there's so much to spew out here, and people are going to say, what's this guy talking so darn fast for? Well, I know our time is limited, and if nothing else, hit the keyboard, go to my website, and start delving into this stuff yourself. But as for the skepticism, and let me just address it, the skeptics are done in the water. All of the stuff has now been authenticated, the evidence, the rest of it is up to people to think through.
So what's the next step in the natural evolution of Billy Meier? Where do we go from here, Michael? If he's been so correct on so many prophecies, if he is the seventh prophet, if those UFO pictures are in fact that you say are authentic, where does he go from here?
Well, Meyer doesn't have to go anywhere. I mean, it's like he continues.
Where does the truth? Where does the truth go?
Okay, that is up to us. That's up to the people that watch your show, that hear these presentations, that will go and say, well, I'm not so sure about that, and I'm going to check it out. If we get enough people worldwide now hitting their keyboards to check it out, that will make a quantum shift in humanity. Otherwise, here's where we go. We go down the road of the fulfillment of the Enoch prophecies, which is world war, complete destruction, our countries, Canada and the U.S., this has been written for a long time, and it's being fulfilled. It was said as early as 87, Russia will attack the U.S. after going into Scandinavia, after going into other parts of the Middle East, and it will come across through Alaska and Canada and involve Canada based on certain involvements that happened with Canada and Russia. That's written in 87. Those involvements, my friend, Georgia, with Russia's endorsing things with Georgia, Canada contending mineral rights in the Arctic Circle, all of this foretold by Meyer. We have it on film before it happened. So it's not about, oh, well, doom and gloom. It's about, do we want to find out what these people, these extraterrestrial humans who cannot come down and interact with us, and none of them are, have said to this man, what he is saying to us, what he knows as a prophet in his own right? Do we want to have finally the wit and the wisdom to prevent what otherwise will take us 800 years to come out of?
Hold that thought. Michael Horn is our guest. www.theyfly.com. We're talking about the Billy Meyer case. Fact, fiction, you be the judge. Send me your email, exxon@exxonradiotv.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Exonation, Michael Horn is my special guest. He is the American media representative for Billy Meyer. This has been a case that has been under more microscopes than a strain of measles has lately. But I'll tell you something, people are asking questions. They're comparing notes. They're going to www.theyfly.com, going back into Michael's website and verifying the information for themselves. And you can do the same thing just by going to www.theyfly.com. Michael Horn is joining us by Skype, and he's in Flagstaff, Arizona. Michael, first of all, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's always great talking to you. We've got about 5 minutes left, Michael. What is the message that you, Michael Horn, the American representative for Billy Horn, would like to get across to our worldwide watchers?
Sure, Billy Meyer. Rob, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on here. I'm going to take it from the core backwards.
All right.
The core of this. This is a spiritual teaching. Now, that can provoke a lot of associations. It's not about angels, saints, gods, saviors, and the rest of it. It means that this is information, material, a teaching, something one can, if they choose to, research and study, that is said to have been the most ancient universal information about human beings, what we are, how we function, what our evolutionary path is cosmically, what our consciousness-related development is. We are going through extremely difficult times. In a sense, we're at the beginning of them. If we don't divert this and make a positive course correction, we're going to call this the beginning of 800 years of bad times. We don't have to go through that. We have to understand that this universe, everything works according to the law of cause and effect.
Right.
The might of the thoughts. What Meyer says is that it is through learning how to think, not believe. Don't believe in the Meyer case or anything else. How to think, to see things exactly as they are, so that we can then formulate our thoughts to create what we prefer, and to stop making thoughts and putting out feelings and actions that bring us what we don't want. Very specific information, how to turn around this terrorism that is otherwise going to put our world back into the dark ages. This is not some little flash in the pan. This IS already has over 100,000 soldiers. They are funded very heavily, not only from millions they've stolen, but from the royal family in Qatar. This is the type of information. Suddenly we jump from the spiritual teaching to the very nuts and bolts of our survival in this world. This is why you will not hear this in the majority of radio shows. Thank you, Rob, for bringing this to light, letting me have it. And you won't hear it in the majority of UFO presentations. And if you go online and so-called UFO experts talk, they don't speak about this. They chase dead-end Roswell things and lights in the sky because this is the powerful deal. I do my work voluntarily on this case. I love it if somebody buys a film that I paid to produce or brings me to speak somewhere. But this is freely available to you, to us, if we don't grasp this and at least do our own due diligence and learn how to think and put all this entertainment on every level in our world aside. We, in our homes, in our towns, villages, cities, and countries, will be overcome. We have environmental events coming now, soon. The Northwest earthquake and tsunami, date not given, 9.05 minutes. OSU, Oregon State University, confirms it 3 to 5 years after Meyer published the information. There's lots of stuff. We've burned down the rainforests. Now, Brazil, people, 6% water. This is happening. We've got to stop entertaining ourselves and figure out how to get our heads straight. So it's there. The Meyer case has volumes of free information, documentation. I will answer emails as best I can. I always do. It takes time.
Yes, you do.
We just want people to search. Skeptics are basically done. So if you're skeptical and you want to attack or question, feel free. I will answer you. But please, this is about our survival. This is about your families. It's about all of us. And we either are going to grasp that, or we're going to say, why didn't somebody warn us when it's already too late? Sure. Somebody did. Billy Meyer in Switzerland.
Michael, we've got less than 1 minute left for this episode of the X Zone TV show. First of all, my many thanks to you, my friend. I have a lot of respect for you, Michael. I always have. And you're one of the very few people in, I don't want to say the world of ufology, but those who investigate ETs and UFOs with the utmost credibility. Your friendship means a lot to me, and I'd love to have you back on in the future so we can further discuss Billy Meyer, Michael Horn, and how Billy's prophecies can help us to have a better world.
My pleasure. I thank you sincerely. Thank you so much.
Michael Horn, great having you with us tonight. Exonation, Michael Horn is the American representative for Billy Meyer. www.theyfly.com. So for tonight, from the X Zone, my name is Rob McConnell. Always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.